There are days when everything feels heavier than it should, not because something dramatic happened. Sometimes nothing big happened at all. It's just the weight, the quiet kind of sadness that sits in your chest, the tiredness that sleep doesn't fix, the feeling that you've been doing your best for a long time, and somehow life still keeps pushing back. And if you're in the middle of that right now, I want to start here. This isn't a failure of character. It's not proof that you're too sensitive or not strong enough or doing life wrong. It's something deeply human, because life, as we all learn, usually the hard way, doesn't move in a straight line. One week you feel steady, the next week something shifts. A phone call, a doctor's appointment, a job decision, a family conversation that doesn't go how you hoped, a memory that shows up like an uninvited guest, and suddenly you're back in that place again. That place where you wonder, what's the point? Or maybe quieter than that, how much longer can I keep doing this? In our culture, we don't always say those words out loud. We keep smiling, we keep working, we keep showing up, we keep the lights on. But inside, something feels low. So today, let's not pretend it's not there. Let's do something different. Let's sit with it, gently. Let's bring a little Buddhist wisdom into the room, not as a sermon, not as a set of rules, but as a way of seeing, a way of breathing again when the heart feels tired. And I want to make one promise, not a magical promise, not a your life will change overnight promise. Just this. By the end of this episode, the situation might still be the situation, but there's a chance your inner world feels a little less trapped, a little more spacious, a little more like you can take the next step. The hidden pain of everything looks fine. One of the hardest kinds of suffering is the kind that doesn't look dramatic from the outside. Maybe you have a home. Maybe you have people who love you. Maybe you did the right things in life, worked hard, raised a family, paid the bills, tried to be decent, and still, there's a sadness you can't quite explain, a loneliness that shows up even when you're not alone. That can be confusing, because you start questioning yourself. Why do I feel like this? Other people have it worse. I should be grateful. But suffering doesn't work like a scoreboard. The Buddha's path begins with something very honest. The recognition that life includes disappointment, stress, loss, and fear. Not because the world is bad, but because everything we love is changeable. Everything we build can be shaken, even the parts of life we thought were solid. And if you're between 45 and 70, you've probably seen enough to know this isn't theory. You've watched plans fall apart. You've watched people change. You've watched your own body change. You've watched the world change. And maybe what's hitting you right now isn't one single problem. Maybe it's the accumulation, the years, the layers, the quiet realization that you can't control everything the way you once believed you could. And in that realization, the heart can sink. So if you're feeling down today, let's name the first truth. Sometimes life gives hard kicks, even to good people, even to people who try, even to people who don't deserve it. And that's where we start. Not with blame, not with shame, just with honesty. A story before the Buddha was the Buddha. I want to take you far back, not to a myth, but to a human story. Before he was called the Buddha, he was a man named Siddhartha. And the way the stories describe it, Siddhartha grew up with protection. Not just physical protection, but emotional protection. The world around him tried to keep suffering out of sight. We can relate to that in a modern way. We do it too. We keep certain things off camera. We don't want to look too closely at aging. We don't want to talk about death. We don't want to admit how fragile our sense of security can be. We keep busy. We stay entertained. We keep scrolling. We keep scheduling. And for a while, it works. But life has a way of showing up anyway. In the traditional stories, Siddhartha eventually sees what are called the four sights: an older person, a sick person, a dead body, and a spiritual seeker. It's not the details that matter as much as the impact, because the moment he sees those things, something breaks open inside him. He realizes, this is not a problem out there. This is what it means to be human. aging, illness, loss. And the big question underneath all of it, is there a way to live that doesn't collapse under all this? That question is the beginning of the path, not religious, not mystical, just deeply practical, because it's the same question you might be asking in your own words. How do I carry this? How do I keep going? How do I live with what I can't fix? Siddhartha didn't ask that question because he was weak. He asked it because he was awake enough to see reality. And in a strange way, feeling down can be a kind of awakening too. Not a pleasant one, but a real one. It's the moment the heart says, I can't keep pretending. The trap. When one chapter becomes the whole book. When you're feeling low, the mind tells a very particular kind of story. It doesn't just say, this hurts. It says, this will always hurt. It doesn't just say, I'm tired. It says, I'll never feel like myself again. It doesn't just say, this is a hard season. It says, this is my life now. That's the trap. The mind takes a chapter and turns it into the whole book. And the Buddha's first major insight, one that shows up again and again, is something simple. Things change. In Buddhism, there's a word for that, impermanence. But let's keep it plain. Impermanence means nothing stays the same. Not the good, not the bad, not the mood you're in right now, not the season of life you're walking through. Everything shifts, sometimes slowly, sometimes suddenly. And when you're down, you might hear that and think, okay, but that doesn't help me today. Fair, so let's make it more personal. Think about your own life. There were times you thought you wouldn't make it through something. A heartbreak, a loss, a financial scare, a health crisis, a year when everything felt like it was falling apart. And yet, here you are. Not because it was easy, not because you stayed positive, but because life moved. The wheel turned, the weather changed, new support appeared, you adapted. Impermanence isn't just a philosophical idea. It's something you've already lived. So when the mind says, this will last forever, impermanence whispers, careful. That's not how life works. The instant world and the slow human heart. One reason it's hard to trust change is that modern life trains us to expect everything fast. If you want information, it's instant. If you want entertainment, it's instant. If you want to message someone, it's instant. If you want to order something, it shows up on your porch. And slowly, without meaning to, the mind starts believing the inner life should work the same way. If I'm sad, I should be able to fix it quickly. If I'm anxious, I should be able to turn it off. If I'm grieving, I should be done with it by now. But the human heart isn't an app. Healing is not a download. Some things take time because they're real. And this is where I want to offer a gentler frame. Maybe you're not behind. Maybe you're not broken. Maybe you're simply moving at the speed of being human. When Siddhartha left his protected life to search for peace, the stories say he tried extremes. He tried pushing himself to the edge. He tried denying the body, denying comfort, denying needs. And it didn't bring freedom, it just brought weakness. Eventually he realized what became known as the middle way. Not indulgence, not harsh self-punishment, but a steady, honest path. And that matters for us because when we're feeling down, we often swing to extremes too. Either we distract ourselves completely, or we attack ourselves mentally. Either we try to numb it, or we judge ourselves for having it. The middle way sounds more like this. I'm hurting, and I can still take one small step. I'm exhausted, and I can still choose something kind. I can rest, and I don't have to quit my life. Rest is not quitting. Let's talk about that line, because it's important. When you're tired, it is okay to rest. Rest can be wise. Rest can be compassionate. Rest can be the body's way of asking for care. Quitting, though, is something else. Quitting is when the mind says, this pain is proof that nothing matters. Quitting is when the mind tries to shut the door because it's afraid the door will slam anyway. And if you've ever felt that, you're not alone. Some days the mind gets dramatic. Some days the mind gets dark. Some days the mind gets hopeless. Not because you're weak, but because the nervous system can only hold so much. So maybe the question isn't, how do I force myself to be happy? Maybe the question is, How do I stay close to life even if I'm not okay today? How do I keep one foot in the world? How do I keep the thread unbroken? Sometimes that thread is very small. Sometimes it's as small as making tea. Sometimes it's as small as stepping outside for air. Sometimes it's as small as taking a shower and letting the water remind you. This moment is moving. This moment is not stuck forever. When helping someone helps you. To now, we arrive at one of the most surprising parts of the original transcript. When you feel down, go help someone. At first, that can sound almost annoying, because if you're hurting, the last thing you want is another responsibility. So let's not turn it into a command. Let's just explore it as a possibility. There's something that happens when the mind is suffering. It contracts. It tightens around me and my problem and my fear. That's not selfishness. That's the nervous system trying to protect itself. But the contraction can become a prison, and sometimes the smallest act of care for someone else creates a little opening. Not because you suddenly become cheerful, but because your heart remembers it's connected. Let me bring in something historical here. During the Great Depression, especially after the crash in 1929, many people were desperate. Jobs disappeared, savings vanished, pride broke, families felt ashamed. And yet, in many communities, people built soup kitchens. Neighbors shared what little they had. Strangers fed strangers. That didn't erase suffering. It didn't make everything okay. But it created something powerful in the middle of hardship. Dignity, humanity, a sense that I'm not alone and I'm not useless. Later, during World War II, there were years of fear and uncertainty on a global scale. And again, ordinary people showed up for each other. They wrote letters. They cared for children. They worked long hours. They rebuilt. More recently, after September 11th, 2001, many people remember how strangers helped strangers. People gave blood. People checked on neighbors. People stood together in shock and grief. And even during the COVID pandemic, when so many felt isolated, small acts mattered. Dropping groceries at a doorstep, calling an older neighbor, leaving a note, making sure someone wasn't forgotten. These aren't political stories. They're human stories. They're stories of suffering and of what can arise inside suffering. Because when the world shakes, something in the human heart remembers. We belong to each other. So when you're feeling down, helping someone doesn't have to mean doing something big. It can be small. A message that says, thinking of you, a genuine, how are you really? Holding the door, letting someone merge in traffic, donating a few items, volunteering for 1 hour. Listening, actually listening to someone who feels invisible. And here's the quiet truth. Sometimes that small kindness doesn't fix your life, but it reminds you that your heart still works. It reminds you that you're still here. It reminds you that this chapter is not the whole book. A gentle practice for the low days. Let's make this practical in a soft way. Not a strict routine, not a self-improvement project, just a gentle sequence you can return to when the weight shows up. If you're able right now, maybe let your shoulders drop a little and take one slow breath, not for performance, just to signal to the body, I'm here. Now in your own words, name what's happening, quietly, internally. Today feels heavy. I feel discouraged. I feel lonely. I feel tired of trying. I feel afraid. Naming isn't a magic trick, it's simply honesty. And honesty in Buddhism is the beginning of freedom, because when you name it, you stop fighting the fact that it's here. Then the next question is not, how do I get rid of this? The next question is more like, what would be a kind next step? Not the perfect step, not the heroic step, just the kind next step. Maybe that step is rest. Maybe it's food. Maybe it's a walk. Maybe it's calling someone safe. Maybe it's turning off the news and giving your mind a break. Or maybe, just maybe, it's one small act of care for someone else. Not because you have to, because it might open a window in the room of your mind. And if your mind immediately argues, I don't have anything to give, that's okay. Sometimes giving looks like this. I'm going to be a little gentler with myself today. Because if you can offer gentleness inward, you're already changing the direction of suffering. The Buddha under the tree, not escaping, but staying. There's a moment in the Buddha's story that I love, not because it's dramatic, but because it's relatable. After searching and struggling, Siddhartha sits down under a tree and basically says, "I'm not getting up until I understand." Not as a stubborn threat, more like a quiet commitment. I'm going to stay present with life exactly as it is. And then, according to the stories, everything shows up. Fear shows up, doubt shows up, temptation shows up, old wounds show up. In Buddhist language, this is sometimes called Mara, the embodiment of the forces that pull us away from clarity. But you don't have to believe in anything supernatural to understand it. We all have a Mara. It's the voice that says, "You're too old. You're too late. You're not enough. This won't change. Why bother? Just give up." And what the Buddha does in the story is not fight with Mara forever. He doesn't argue his way to peace. He simply sees clearly. He stays. He stops running. And in that seeing, something loosens. He realizes that the mind storms are real, but they're not permanent. He realizes that craving and fear create suffering. He realizes that there is a path, slow, steady human, that leads to freedom. Not freedom from having a life, but freedom inside life. That's the key difference. The goal isn't to become someone who never feels down. The goal is to become someone who can be with the down days without letting them define the whole story. The survival guide. You didn't want to write. There's another idea from your transcript that's worth holding carefully. It says, one day your life story might be a survival guide for someone else. Now I want to be gentle with that, because sometimes people say things like that in a way that feels dismissive. Like it's all for a reason. We're not doing that. Some pain is just pain. Some losses are not lessons. Some suffering is not romantic. But it can also be true that the hardships you've lived have shaped you in a way comfort never could. They've taught you what matters. They've taught you what doesn't. They've softened some sharp edges. They've made you more human. And when you meet someone else who's struggling, you may not have perfect words, but you have something better than words. You have presence. You have the look in your eyes that says, "I get it." That kind of understanding can be medicine. Not flashy medicine, quiet medicine. And sometimes, strangely, the very thing you thought disqualified you, the failures, the losses, the hard chapters, becomes the bridge between you and another human being. Patience, the most underrated form of strength. Let's talk about patience, because when you're feeling down, patience can feel impossible. You want relief, you want answers, you want something to change, and patience can sound like, just wait and suffer. That's not what I mean. The patience we're talking about is more like endurance with kindness. It's the willingness to let things take the time they take without turning that time into a personal insult. In the Buddha's path, there's a lot of sitting, a lot of watching, a lot of learning how the mind works. It's not instant, and in our modern world, we forget that inner change is slow, grief is slow, rebuilding trust is slow, finding your footing after a major life shift is slow. Learning how to live with uncertainty is slow. So if you're in a slow season, that doesn't mean nothing is happening. Seeds grow in silence. Not every change announces itself. Sometimes the only sign of progress is this: you're still here, you're still breathing, and maybe, just maybe, you're a little more honest than you used to be, a little more open, a little more willing to feel. That is strength. When the mind says, "I can't do this anymore," let's address the moment that scares people. The moment when the mind says, "I can't do this anymore." If that thought has visited you, you're not alone. And it doesn't automatically mean you truly want your life to end. Often it means, "I can't do life the way I've been doing it." It means, "I can't carry this alone. I can't keep pretending. I can't keep being hard on myself." In that moment, one of the kindest moves is to simplify. Not your whole life, just the next hour, just the next step. What is the smallest doable thing? Drink water, eat something simple, step outside, text someone safe, I'm having a rough day. Put your hand on your chest and feel the warmth. Turn on a light. Open a window. These are not small things when you're down. They are anchors. And Buddhism is full of this kind of grounded wisdom. Come back to what's real. Come back to the body. Come back to the breath. Come back to the present moment. Not because the present moment is always pleasant, but because it's the only place life can actually meet you. A reframe. This is part of being alive. Here's a reframe that can change the tone of suffering. Instead of asking, why is this happening to me? Try asking, what is this trying to show me about being human? Not as a cosmic message, not as fate, just as reality. Because when you see suffering as personal punishment, you add shame to pain. But when you see suffering as part of the human deal, something softens. You stop being at war with yourself. You can say, of course this hurts. Of course I'm tired. Of course I'm scared. And from that honesty, a steadier kind of courage can appear. Not loud courage, quiet courage. The courage to keep going without needing to be perfect. A small closing story, the candle. There's an old image in Buddhist traditions that I've always liked. A candle can light another candle without losing its own flame. That's what kindness can do. And that's what your life can do even now, even in a hard chapter. You don't need to feel great to be meaningful. You don't need to have it all together to be a light. Sometimes the most genuine light comes from someone who has walked through darkness and learned not to hate themselves for it. Ending, not perfect, but lighter. So let's come back to where we started. If you're feeling down today, nothing is wrong with you for feeling that. Life is unpredictable. Life is mysterious. And yes, life can hit hard. But this moment is not the whole story. This is a chapter, not the whole book. The feeling in your chest is real, and it's also changing, even if you can't see it yet. And maybe the gentlest way forward is this. Rest when you need to rest. Let yourself be human speed. Choose one small, kind next step. And if it feels possible, offer one small kindness outward, not to fix your pain, but to loosen the walls around it. No one can promise that suffering disappears forever. But there is something real that can happen. You can learn to carry life more lightly. You can learn to stop fighting what's already here. You can learn to stand in the middle of change and still keep your heart open. If you're listening to this while lying in bed, or sitting in your car, or walking through your neighborhood with heavy thoughts, just know you're not alone. And the fact that you're still listening, still breathing, still here, that matters. May you be safe. May you be steady. May you be gentle with yourself. Namo Buddha.